Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Brittany,
Hi, Maria.
and this is the Be More podcast. And today we are going to jump back to a text message that I had sent Maria weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
And it literally took us both 5 minutes to figure out what I was talking about. But we're going to jump back to I heard like Jim Collins give a talk. And it's funny because he's done so many things that I don't even know how to describe like what he does, like his
We had to
foundation as a
Wikipedia
person.
him.
Yeah, like I had to
Yeah.
look him up. Because I know him in reference to the books that he's written. And he, and a lot of the books that I've read are in the context of like business leadership and how to just like function as a person really well. So never really knew what his foundation is, but apparently he's got foundations in like math and like
Yeah.
social sciences and nothing to do with business. But um he has a lot of philosophies and frameworks and the ways that he pieces things together that fit really well into places in social and business sectors. But apparently, he doesn't refer to himself as like a business person. He just refers to himself as a writer.
Yeah. If you look him up, his occupation is writer and consultant. So he's not really like an entrepreneur.
The book that I was just listening to him talk about it's like literally has entrepreneurship in it, like is in the title. So I think that was just interesting. But he talked a lot about creativity in this talk that I was listening to, and that's what sparked my interest because in previous episodes, not too far ago, Maria and I had had a conversation about like creativity. And he
Hmm.
talks a lot about when he was struggling to figure out what made him happy. And I guess that's kind of why he doesn't define himself as like a specific person because he is a creative and he just has the outlet of doing it and like being a writer. Um, but he talks about how he struggled with finding like where his happiness was and being a mathematician person that he is, he has he's tracked the data of his life he was talking about. So he has like spreadsheets upon spreadsheets on his life and his daily habits. And he would take all of this data and go back and study it after like a year's time to see
Dang.
what it was, like what his days were made up of, that he really like figure out what he enjoyed and what made his life good. So it's funny because I actually brought this idea up to Dan
Uh-huh.
and Dan started kind of doing it. I've kind of fallen off with it a little bit because I was like, I don't really like
That's not you.
what, but I also don't like what I'm seeing in the data and what the
Oh,
data is
you know.
telling me. Um, but what was crazy about it is that this
Hmm.
concept that he brought up I just heard another a business person named Tim Ferriss. He has a podcast that's all about like business. I was just listening to him talk in an interview and he was saying how he uses this idea. So I thought that was crazy that they coincided. But
Hmm.
um so this is where he gets what he how he like led to having this rule that we're going to talk about in a second. But he started by marking off his days to to decipher where his happiness was. He would track his days and he would mark them off as either being like a 1, a +1 or a -1.
Okay.
And he kept this data for a year, I think he said.
Okay.
And
All right.
after that much time, he would go back and within each of the days, he would put down like what the components were of what his day involved. Like
Okay,
what did
like a
he do?
journaling
Yeah, like except
situation.
like with numbers, which is what
Yeah.
just rubs me the wrong way, but it's fine. So like in his data, he would put I spent my day doing this kind of work or this kind of work or this kind of work. And he started to notice that there was a trend in his +1 days. He spent 50% of his time doing creative work, 30% of
Uh-huh.
his time in some type of teaching setting because I believe he is still a professor, and then
Uh-huh.
the other 20% of his time doing anything else that like whatever
Okay.
else he did.
Sure.
With and this is like was it within his work, and this is where he came up with the 50-30-20 rule in relations to happiness. He found that if he met that formula of 50% creative work, 30% teaching and 20% whatever else he did with his day, that was when he was the happiest and he got his +1 days.
Okay. I see. I don't know how how that fits in my in my world, but go on.
But I thought it was just interesting. So I brought this idea up to Dan. And I was like, it's funny because I've noticed that I only ever want to talk about me having like a never want to talk about my day if it's a +1 day, right? Like we only
Right.
ever want to talk
Typical.
about the good.
Yeah.
But I started like not liking it because when I would go back at the end of the day, I'd be like, okay, this wasn't a great day, or this was just like a neutral day, and I didn't have as many +1 days as I wanted to have. Um, so it's just I thought it was a really brilliant way as somebody who I can respect and appreciate numbers. I don't and I like what they tell you. I just don't like the process of gathering all of the numbers and going through
You
all
just
of
want
that.
like you don't outsource your data analysis, like give it to
Correct.
someone else.
I want to be able to I want the process of gathering the data to go out to somebody else, but no one
Yeah.
else is me, so no one else is going to be able to do it. But
Right.
I believe that numbers tell a story.
Right.
Like I believe like and that's like a I when I do any type of research that I do, I enjoy the data and I like finding the story that comes from the data. But if the data has to be in numbers, like I don't want to be the person who has to analyze all of it.
That's literally my job.
I know, which is we're
That's
so
literally what I
different.
do.
But it's just funny. I thought it was a really good idea because it gives you, right, as somebody who appreciates numbers and he is a mathematician, it gives you a really clear foundation to understand like where you are and why you were there.
Yeah.
And I thought it was brilliant. So I like trying to just be more cognizant of when I have a good day. And I feel like I kind of already know like what my good days are because
Yeah.
I know that I can go out and spend hours upon hours in like a teaching setting or hours upon hours like in like a nerdy researching setting. I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
doing that stuff.
Okay.
Um so like I already kind of know what mine comes down to, but I think it's amazing that he's kind of cracked the code and knowing exactly what he has to find in his days. I think it's
To make himself happy. So
yeah.
then in your case, obviously something has to give.
Well,
If you're
also it's
not,
been like really the last like week or two has been really like fucked because of the holiday.
well, the holidays,
Um,
yeah.
but I just
Your
thought,
whole routine is shot.
yeah, and I'm also like doing a lot of work and transitioning to make because now I have a better sense of what it is I like to do. So I'm like doing a
That's
lot of
good.
transitioning with everything right now.
Uh-huh.
What just baffled me was that he kind of figured out how to figure it out.
And that just takes someone with that mindset to figure it out.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
to be able to look at stuff very black and white. And
like
one of the
clearly
things,
he graduated with a mathematical science degree. Like he
yeah,
knew how to
what else are you doing with that?
he knows what to do with numbers.
No, and I think it's cool that he was able to like give it to the world. But another thing that he brought up that made me really, really laugh,
Hmm.
and it's funny because I haven't really had this issue since he started talking about it, but as somebody who can often struggle with insomnia, he talked about having a 20-minute rule
Okay.
where if he finds that like he's in bed and he can't
Oh,
fall asleep and he's like staring at the ceiling and just like he lets it happen for 20 minutes and then he's like, nope, I have to get up and I have to go do something. And he
so
brought Go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go. I'll talk about it after.
We do this all the time. Whenever we have a thought, we're like, well, no, okay, whatever. So my therapist, when I went to therapy, told me this. He was like, if
Hmm.
you not, it's not 20 minutes, but he's like, if you are literally in bed and you cannot fall asleep and you're not doing anything, you have to get up and do something
I
else.
know. But
And
it's
I'm like,
so
but
terrible
it's
because it's
so
so
hard.
comfortable.
It's
You're
so
so comfortable.
exactly. You're just like,
It's literally the
so
worst. I
I,
fight with
I'm
my bladder every day for this reason.
right. And it's just like, I'm surprised that he said 20 minutes. Like, did he have like a I don't know a
I'm sure I don't
hypothesis or
know. He didn't
whatever.
have any reason behind it. I think he just found that 20 minutes was his perfect
His
time. And it's funny
his
because
thing.
ever since I set this rule for myself, that I was like, all right, if this ever happens, I knock on wood have been sleeping really, really well lately. Um, but I just think it was so and what baffled me and what I respected about what he like went through with all of this is that he said that he would lay in bed and become awake because he would think about like he would start ruminating, right? Like, oh, this is the
Yeah,
stuff I didn't do today,
typical.
or this is the stuff
Yeah.
I have to do today, or this is like all of those things. And he brought up this idea of like in those moments, he has to get up because otherwise he sits in like his comparison or regret mindset, right? Or he starts
Mm.
to
Yeah, it's a
question
mindset.
himself, right?
Yeah.
Or like whatever, go through the whole list of just like negative, essentially just negative things that are in his brain
Mm-hmm.
because he's not taking action to do anything else. So he said like that's how he manages it. And he said it in a very like eloquent way, but he brought up
Yeah.
the fact that like the only way that you get that to stop, like the only way you get yourself to stop regretting or stop sitting in the past of whatever the last day looked
Yeah.
like is by taking action and doing something to move forward. And I was like, that's
It
freaking
makes
genius,
sense. It makes
right?
sense. Yeah, because when you my therapist also said like if you start doing that in bed, like thinking, being anxious, whatever, then your brain is instantly like when you go to sleep in this bed, it's gonna think that it's a bad space or a space to
uh,
actually overthink. And I was
yeah,
like,
that's true.
yeah, that no, you're right. But have I gotten up? No. It's just so like comfortable, which with
Especially now
anything,
because it's dark and cold and
yeah, and with anything, it's
uh,
just comfortable to just stay in whatever state you're in.
yep. Oh
So
yeah.
that's
But I
very
thought it
interesting.
was brilliant. And then I was like, and then my thing that I struggle with, and I do this to myself, but
Hmm.
also society has done this to me. So, like, you have your work hours, right? And you know
Yeah,
when you work and you know when you're off, and like,
right,
it's
right.
pretty consistent for you.
Hmm.
I love the fact that I don't work regular work hours. But
Yeah,
the thing that sucks for me is that I live in a society that functions on those hours.
right, like a 9 to 5 or 10 to 6
Right.
or whatever, eight to
So
four.
for me, I fight with my, I fight with like the good social standing version of myself every day when it's so, this is why I need to go live like really somewhere that's not like as like urban suburban as where we live. Um, because I have to fight with myself. I tell myself like, Brittany, it's 2 in the morning. Like you're not gonna wake up and go sit in your office and do work right now. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you
yeah.
can't go do that. Because then I also tell myself like you also have to get up at like 8 o'clock and do the rest of your day, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
I I am not yet at the point where I can bring myself to super break,
yeah. That cycle or whatever.
yeah, like that, like having to live, and I hate to say normalcy, but like the societal standards of what
Working
my
hours
life
are
should look like.
like
Yeah.
working hours. Yeah.
And I have days where I'm really good at it and I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter, whatever, I'm just gonna do this. And then I have other days where I'm like, no, no, you're not. Like you can't. And I it's just it's a struggle. So when he was talking about that idea, when he was like, it'll be like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I'm like, nope, I have to get up and go in my office and start working on stuff. And if I go to bed at 6 a.m. and I don't wake up until like 11 o'clock,
Whatever.
like that's what I do. And I need to talk to more people who do that because that's that's also okay, right?
It
But
yeah.
that also better suits the lifestyle that I have.
Well, here's the
Be
so
complicated.
it's a give and take because I mean, again, I'm blessed with a job where I don't have to do a 9 to 5, even though I'm an accountant.
Mm,
I can do whatever. And I was talking to one of my bosses, and he's like, as my career progresses, you're kind of at the mercy of like how you are with your clients. Like whenever
mm,
they're scheduled or whatever I'm scheduled for, and whenever I get my info and whatever you're whatever, all this stuff.
yeah,
So I start at 10, quote unquote. I start at 10 and end at quote unquote 6, but I could go from 10 to like midnight some days just because in between I'm not working because I'm at the
yeah,
mercy of whoever I'm working with. So
true.
it is normal for even for a professional setting like I am. Like I could like I'll be online for questions with my staff for 10 to 6 or 9 to 5, whatever, but I'm not working. And then that's fine because I'll get my 8 hours. It'll just take me the whole day. But in between,
Yeah.
I'm taking breaks and doing other things that I want to do.
It's just so
So it also is like you need the environment to same thing with anything. Like you need the environment to
I
see that
know,
it's
I know.
normal.
Well, this is like the word. Like speaking of needing the environment, this is the
Yeah.
worst. My mental state and my physical state are like contradictory to one another
Yeah.
because I know that I am most productive between like the hours of probably like 9 and 2. Like those are my most productive hours.
Yeah.
And those hours primarily are when like I'm doing work. I'm not working with people, but I'm doing like my behind the scenes whatever work and preparation I have to do. Like that's
Same.
usually that
Yeah.
time.
I do 2 to 7. Like and in the mornings it's like miscellaneous things and people. I'm helping people, but like
Yeah.
from 2 to 7. So same
But the
thing. It's
worst part
whatever.
is so that's like that time, right? That's like my productive behind the scenes get stuff done time. And then I spend usually from like 2 o'clock to anywhere between like 2 and 7
Yeah.
working with people, which is fine. And then I get tired. And then I usually get a second wind. And it's not consistent. It's not like every day this happens. And I could stay up till like 2 in the morning if I really
Yeah.
wanted to. This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
like
I
with
get
a
my
lot of
second wind
support.
around. Yeah, I get my second. So it's like I'm productive from 2 to 7. I take a couple hours break, and my second wind is like 10, 9 to 10 or something. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I
Yeah.
could do more work, or
And
I
then
could
it's
really just do anything
frustrating.
else.
It's
Yeah.
frustrating too because like if I go to bed at 2 and I want to wake up at like and be doing stuff at 9 o'clock, like that is enough time. But also I give myself such a hard time about like oversleeping. Like so this morning, right? I was like, all
Yeah.
right, I'm gonna wake up
Okay.
and be up by like 8:30. Like it's technically it's a day off. Like I'm going and doing running errands, like whatever, really relaxed day. And I woke up at 8:30 and don't even remember falling back asleep. And I woke up at 10 and was like, oh fuck. Like I like give myself guilt over missing the morning. Like I want to my body wants to be up with the sun. I don't know why.
Right.
I have this strong desire for it. Like I'm a morning person, but at the same time, the lifestyle that I lead like doesn't always work with that, but I like it. It's and then what doesn't help is that in order to do the work that we need to do, you have to sit in front of a computer and then you're fucking with your brain to be able to go back to sleep anyway. So the pieces of the puzzle don't fit together right, but those are the
No.
pieces that were dealt and it's so frustrating. So I loved this rule because I was like I have to remember that I can break away from the norms, but it's super annoying when there are always going to be parts of like the puzzle that we have to work with that are still within the standards of society.
But I feel like it's the guilt that's tripping you up.
Well,
The,
yeah, it is the guilt. And it's like,
right.
why?
Why be
I
guilty
don't know
about sleeping
why,
in?
but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have guilt
yeah.
about everything. Let's be real. I have guilt about everything.
And I
But I
get it
think,
because like it's just taking like sleeping in as the example for right now, right? Like I also want to get up early and I know I go to sleep every night at like between the hours of 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. So like 2 to 9 isn't bad. Like that's what, 7 hours? If I
no,
do
it's
my
not bad
math
at all.
correctly, right?
Yeah, it's
Like
not bad at all.
two, like, and that's usually my bedtime for work anyways, like 2 or 3 to 9 ish, because I start at 10. But then like today being a Sunday, I still tend to try and wake up around 9, but like I don't know what happened, and then I woke up at like noon or right before we were supposed to
That's
record.
why Maria didn't answer me earlier today. I understand now.
um oh yeah, if anyone's watching, we're recording at night. You can see in Brittany's window, it's like dark out.
It's dark outside.
um so again, like I feel bad because then that's like, oh, your day's shot. Like that sucks. But
Yes,
also
but
but also that means your body needs that sleep. So
do you
I
want to
forgive
know?
myself
I just you want to know
two
what I'm
seconds after.
realizing this stems from. It really it has to.
Yeah.
I so I'll go back through what my brain was just unraveling there. But like you're right, like we do need to if
Mhm.
you need the sleep, like you need the sleep. It's not a bad
Yeah, it's
thing to need
whatever.
sleep. And whatever your sleep schedule is really should be whatever you're like. And that's the thing
Yeah.
too. And Dan made fun of me because yesterday we literally woke up. We woke up to our like Roomba starting to clean the apartment at 11 o'clock. And less than an hour later, we're laying on the couch watching TV and
Yeah.
I start falling asleep. He's like, we just woke up and you slept for like 9 hours. Why are you falling asleep? And I was like, this is where I'm
You
at.
just need
Like
sleep.
I'm
Yeah.
either like down here and running on nothing and exhausted or up here and
Yeah.
running. Like there's no in
Yeah.
between.
There's no in between.
But I value sunlight in a really, really messed up way. But because I'm
Yeah.
like exactly what you said, right? Like the sun goes away and you're like, oh, day is shot. And like your day
Yeah.
isn't only revolving around sunlight. But I
Yeah.
will tell you this, I so much remember when we were teenagers and I used to wake up at noon and my mother used to give me just endless amounts of shit about it.
I mean that's the guilt
That's where the
behind
guilt,
all
yes,
this.
this is exactly
Yes,
what I'm
because
hitting the
same
nail on the
thing.
head on.
Same thing, especially during the weekends, right? Because that's the only time
Yeah,
we get to
because we
sleep
could.
in. Yeah,
No.
and still to this day, kind of. It's only just the weekends we can still sleep in.
Oh no, I
But
don't get
now
to
we
do
don't
that.
have our parents nagging us to wake up
But
and
it's
like
in
do
there.
shit.
I hate guilt. It's
Yeah.
the worst thing ever.
Yeah, because it's like, I mean, for me and like the weekends and my parents waking me up, it's like because they're morning people. At least my dad was with us because my mom works overnight, so she's clearly sleeping during the day. So my
Yeah,
dad
and
would give a
Brett, yeah.
shit because he's such a morning person. And he like works hella early in the morning. Like now he works at like 4 a.m. So he's up at 2 a.m. or some bullshit. So it's like if we're like not up by, I don't know, 8 or something, even on the weekends, he's like, get up. Like it's so late and it's like 9:30. I'm like, Dad, like
That's how I feel though when I wake up, and that like
but
I
now
uh
for me, it's just like I just needed the sleep. I like it sucks, like because especially now because the sun goes down at 4 fucking 30
which
in the
is terrible.
afternoon,
Yeah.
which sucks for my seasonal, but that's another story. But also, it's like I have so much time because even if I do wake up at 12, like I did today, or like finally get out of bed at like 12, I'm up till 2 a.m.
I
Like
know. That's the thing
that's an ample amount of
I
time,
have
dude, to do
to
so much shit.
really start, and I know that it's like I know the day doesn't end when the sun sets. Like we don't live in those times.
It
Thankfully we
just
have
feels
electricity.
like it. I
It
feel like
just
human nature feels like it.
yes, and it's so funny because the need to I don't know. It's just like our
The need to do things, the need to get up. What?
I don't I remember how in our last episode we had a conversation about like it's easier to have something that feel like you need to like attach yourself to and understanding it.
Yeah.
We were talking about that a little bit. I so badly I tell myself and I want to be so badly a morning person because
It's
on a
not gonna.
normal
Yeah.
but in a normal setting, I am a morning person. I love waking up early and I love having the whole day to
What
myself.
is early to you though? Like,
Like I would wake up like before 7 every day and be okay with it.
okay, okay,
Like
sure,
7:30 is like my golden time usually like waking up.
okay,
Um
sure.
but I have to that's not something it's like it really goes back to what we were saying. Like I can't hold on to that because I just make myself more angry and stress myself out. Like
Yeah.
my bladder and my subconscious and like I've been saying I've been sleeping really well lately. We've been going to bed late because the holidays you're out doing stuff and whatever. The
Yeah.
last week I've been sleeping really well, but I wake up without my alarm at 6:30 and I'm like ready to go.
Okay.
But I put myself back
But
in bed
you
because I'm like, fuck this, it's 6:30. Like I'm going back to sleep.
right. If you just woke up the same thing with me. Like, yeah, I go to sleep. I stay in bed till 9 or like for weekdays or whatever purposes. But I do get up at 7:30. Like my body just wakes
Yeah,
me up
like
at
the
7:30.
biological situation.
Yeah, and I'm like, hell, same thing. Hell no, I'm not waking up at 7:30. I
Yeah,
got like
it
an hour
just
and a
seems crazy.
half.
I have to just like not look at the alarm. And that's the thing. It's
Like we
so
could just
frustrating.
get up.
Right.
We
If I don't look at,
really
and
just could.
like I'm blind as hell. Like I don't got
Yeah.
my glasses on, and that's why I always wake up Dan because I don't.
Same here. Like
clock
I'm like Velma. I'm like, where the
the
fuck are my
clock
glasses?
is
I
on the
can't see
other
shit.
side of our bed. It's on Dan's side of the bed, and I literally get in bed and like climb over him without my glasses
Yeah,
on,
you're
like
just
trying to
like
see what time it is, which wakes me up more, right? Like this
so
is
you just
terrible.
get up.
I am just such a slave. I hate that we're such slaves to time. Like it's just so it really
Oh well,
creates
yeah, that is
so much of the
that,
issue when
right?
it comes to sleep, right?
Yeah,
If I
that is
don't have
that. You're
to
just a
think
slave to
about
time.
what time it is, like at all, because then like you stress yourself out and like the whole system of having to set up an alarm, right? I go to bed and I look at what time it is. I set an alarm and my alarm on my phone tells me how many hours of sleep I get, and then I stress out
Oh,
about that, and then I go
and
to
then it's
bed
this whole cycle.
waiting. It's terrible, which is probably why I've been sleeping so well the last week because I
Yeah,
haven't really been like telling myself I have to get up at a certain time
no,
or I
and
have
like
to do this, I have to do that. And I think I just have to do
whatever is best for your body.
that more. Yeah. And I
Yeah,
am lucky, I'm fortunate enough that because of the primary time that I work with others is in
yeah.
the afternoon and I'm usually by myself working in the morning. Um there
Mm-hmm.
really is no reason for me to be as anal as I am. But I have a whole morning routine that I usually start at 7:30 and I feel really great when I do it.
Okay,
But I think that
it could
coming
work later
coming
than seven
back
thirty.
to like Jim, like the whole concept of Jim Collins, like going back and analyzing his days and plus ones and all of that stuff.
Hmm.
And I think this is, I wish I knew where we really started learning about like what good
Sleep is?
scheduled time was, or like a good
Oh,
way to schedule our time was.
yeah. Well, I always get the slack of like you go to sleep at 2:30, that's not healthy. But like
Yeah.
2:30 in the morning. But also like if I'm getting 7 hours of sleep, that's 7 hours of sleep.
Yeah, it shouldn't make a difference.
Exactly. So it's like, what is the I don't know, stigma? I don't know. It's the same thing.
Right. It's all of it. It's so where did like
It's
when
like
did this start?
I don't know, capitalism, like 9 to 5 is your working hours. It doesn't work for everyone, but that's just capitalism's 9 to 5. And then you do your whatever until like I don't know what's the normal sleep 10 p.m. maybe like from
Yes, yeah.
so that's only like if you calculate that what 8 hours working, 5 hours doing whatever you want to do, like
Which is not a good ratio.
which is not a good ratio at all.
It's
So
not
it's
a good
like
ratio.
I'm literally making up for the time that I'm working is doing whatever I want to do
That's
until 2 a.m.
but that's what Dan when Dan was working consistently in a corporate setting
Yeah.
and he would spend like multiple days working 8 plus hours,
Yeah.
he would come home and stay up late into the night. And like when I would talk to him about it, like if you're tired, like go to sleep early. And like that this is a slightly different he has a like a different battle that he fights when it comes to time
Yeah.
because he's like I I don't like the day is not mine. Like if I come home from work and I just say that the day is over, the day was not mine, and that's
Yeah.
frustrating. So he would
Yeah.
stay up late because he's like, I want to do what I want to do. Like I want the day to be
Yeah,
mine,
you want to live
and
your
I get
life.
that. That's
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah, and
But again, that
there's a word
comes.
for that. I feel like I've mentioned this before in
Uh,
the earlier
mhm.
episode. There's a word for that when you like when you're done with work and you stay up super late just to fulfill your own needs, personal wants, or whatever. That there's a word for that. I can't remember. I'm sure it's somewhere on the internet,
It's
but
just sad that that's
it's
what
a
like
mentality.
it has
It's literally a
come to.
mentality.
This is why
It's also
people
just
in Europe, like the whole functioning of the way that they work, where it's like we work for 4 days and then we get a floating day and no one's allowed to do anything on
ugh.
the weekend and like we take a lot more time off than we do on like it's just like
There was a tweet. There was a
ugh.
tweet the other day. I guess I think he was European. I'm pretty sure he was European, but he immigrated to America.
Hmm.
Um, and was commenting on PTO and the concept of PTO
Hmm.
and how different it is here compared to wherever he was in Europe. Because he was saying like he couldn't fathom, and he's living here now. He's like, I can't fathom just only having like 2 weeks PTO every year, and then having the stigma of like not actually using it. Like in Europe, like you have to use it
Oh
because
yeah.
they value your time, like your personal stuff, your personal whatever. Whereas here, it's like it's your death sentence, basically, actually taking time off for yourself. And I'm like, yeah, like this is the American capitalist system that we live in, is
Yeah.
that everyone needs to produce and like, work and then feel bad about taking their own time.
Yup. And like not being in the right time frame. And that's why like I just
And like I don't like it. I don't do that. I just take off when I want to take off.
no,
Granted, if it's
yeah.
not tax season, I don't care. Like and like again, I'm very blessed that I have the opportunity because the company is like this. Otherwise I hear horror stories about people saving PTO for potential sick days, saving
Yeah,
PTO
but
for
then like what
XYZ.
if
And
you
I'm
don't
like,
get it? What if they take it from you?
yeah,
Like
exactly. So it's
it's
like
not
just
yours until it is.
yeah, and like again, like a past episode, like just take the damn day off.
Yeah.
Like
No,
it's not
I that's gonna be my next. I've gotten really, really good at the. I don't know
Mhm.
why I'm weird about sleep then. Like, cause I'm thinking about this in my brain. I'm like, why are you weird about your sleep schedule? I've gotten really good at the fact that like I exist outside of that 9 to 5 frame, and I've gotten really good at like that. But for some reason, I'm still weird about sleep, and it has probably everything to
You
do
can
with what we
sleep
talked
whenever you
about.
want. I feel like
But
you can
that's
sleep
what I
whenever you
have
want.
to.
Yeah.
That's the next thing I have to start shifting for myself is like I just need to and I'm really good
Yeah.
with napping. Like I'm a napping fiend. Like I nap for I remember when I don't remember where I read this from but I remember when like there was like a fad that was about how like, oh, you nap for 2 hours every 8 hours or something like that, and you
Oh, I know the whole like the best napping time is like 2 or 3 p.m. or something.
yeah, oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I totally
I
agree.
also agreed with that. Yeah.
I
I did
feel
that in the
like
height of quarantine when I was not in the office. I was like, I'm gonna take an hour nap and put it on my like calendar blocked off like out of office.
I feel like that is if I'm really gonna be I'm talking about like a peak like sleep schedule for me, that is totally it. Because I can't when I get too much sleep,
You
I
get
am
drowsy.
like
I
worthless.
get drowsy.
Yep,
I
I
get
am
like I
so
don't want to do
worthless.
anything.
Which is why I ended up taking a nap yesterday, like 30 minutes after we literally just woke up. Um, but no,
Yeah, because too much sleep is also bad too.
I
It's like
know it does. It
there's a
clogs
sweet
everything,
spot, and it should be literally when your body wakes you up at
which
7:30 or
is
whatever,
so
6:30.
frustrating because that's not how
That's not
not
how
how
we
things
function.
works right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not how things work right now. So
No,
that's
I
my
think
journey into the next
if
couple of weeks is me just being like, I'm gonna go to sleep, and on days where I don't have to be somewhere because like
yeah.
because otherwise I get stressed about. I still get stressed that my alarms aren't gonna go off, and like I've used them so much.
I know.
But I'm gonna start to,
Mhm.
and that's the thing. If I get mad at myself because I know that when I do my little morning routine, it makes me like the rest of the day is better. I'm more productive. I'm in a better mood and blah blah blah. But if I don't wake up, give myself the time to do that,
You're screwed.
then and you honestly, you know what it probably is. It's probably not even so much so that like I feel better because I've necessarily done the act. Like I know what when I do my movement stuff, obviously I feel better. But I feel like because I have that stuff on my list of to do, it's not the action of doing it. It's the fact that I'm doing it and marking off like the boxes and
It's the
releasing the
checklist that you have in your
endorphins.
head.
That's
Yeah, yeah,
making me feel
yeah.
better and then helping me with the day.
But is it because you're tied to the 7:30 start time?
No, I think I've found that the 7:30 start time gives me enough time to do that stuff that I want to be able to do.
Oh,
But I
okay.
think, the sad part is I'm tied to doing the stuff
Hmm.
for not the right reasons.
Correct, because you are literally just doing a checklist in your mind. Like, okay, I did this, so that means
Yep.
today's gonna be a good day. That's supposed to like. It really should just be like, okay, I woke up. Today's gonna be a good day.
But I'm working. The good thing is the stuff that I'm doing is like working me towards goals that I have, and like
Yeah.
it helps me like clean my like. But I know that in the back of my mind, I like checking stuff off. It's really unhealthy how much I like list making and checking things off.
There's again same thing because I used to be like that where I would have things to do per day in like a time slotted. Like I have to. This is a whole thing in therapy when I went to therapy because I get really dysfunctional when I don't have a set to-do list. Like my mental state outside of busy season is actually
Sludgy,
shit compared to when
sludgy.
I have
That's how I am.
when I have
Sludge.
busy season because I have it. I know when I'm working and after work I know what I need to do around the
Yeah.
house or do
Oh
whatever
yeah.
to keep my sanity.
Yeah.
And then off
Unproductive
season
time is the worst time to
it's
have to
the
deal with.
worst time. So like there was a point where it would be to the T I needed to do things like actually block off time and that was too much. And now I've reduced it to just having a list without time frames to do over a span of not just one day but a week so that you can just within the week
Yep.
check off the 10 things I gotta
That
do,
is the
which is
first
very healthy.
lesson that I had to learn about having a business
Yeah, that too.
because
Yeah,
I would 100% be like, I have to do this at this time and this at this time and this
yeah.
because of my comparison to
The
a
9 to 5.
corporate structure.
Mm-hmm.
In a
Mm-hmm.
corporate structure, you have this meeting at this time and you have to submit this by this time, and it's whatever your entire day, right, is that
Yeah,
it's stuff that
meetings,
has to be done
deliverables,
like
all that stuff.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
And
for
it's
sure.
like, so I did that to myself and I totally relate to what you're saying.
Yeah,
And then I started realizing like, no, no, I just did give myself like a deadline date for
yes,
the week.
not
And
a
these are
time.
the
Yeah.
tasks that I have to do across a week. And when I get to them across the week, I get to them.
Mm-hmm.
But I get it. I like, I used to do that with like personal stuff. Like I have to have the laundry done by this time. Like I
Oh,
don't,
yeah, same, which is so unhealthy. It's literally just like within a time frame.
It is.
literally
It's
just
either the
within a
like
time frame.
it's like either the nice little box that's got to be so perfect or like there's just wrapping paper and everything's
Just
everywhere. Like
everywhere. Yeah.
it's so hard to function in the middle. And that's I think
Yeah.
why I'm
And
too
that's what you
afraid.
need is the middle.
Right. And it's hard because the middle is slightly organized but not as organized.
But it's more forgiving.
And right. And that's right. And that's exactly where like you end up like me being somebody who lives with a lot of shame and guilt around things is because you spend so much time existing and trying to create yourself within that like very rigid time frame.
Yeah, that you don't need, technically.
Yeah. And like our world doesn't function off of that. Like the flowers outside when they have to fall or change color, especially after we've seen this year, it's like everyone has to be done by 2 o'clock on October 22nd. Like everything's
Yeah.
done. Like that's just not how things function. And it's hard to play. It really is all play. And that's the wonderful thing about I always remind myself in the forgiving thing. It's something that I have to say is one of the greatest things that yoga ever taught me was that like balance in and of itself, ironically relating to what we just talked about, balance in and of itself is not rigid, right? Even when you come to putting up a building, right? And we
Yeah.
give the idea that like things are perfect in structure, like no, they're not, because if
Right.
the wind blows hard enough, it's going to knock over that structure, right? Or if something knocks into that structure, it's going down. And
Mm-hmm.
whenever anything, I'll keep the wind analogy, like whenever wind is blowing, that structure is at play to keep
Right.
balance.
Right. Right.
It just seems more rigid and more set in stone because it's a building. But like I learned through my yoga practices and my teachings that balance is about play. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you're going to fall over.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're not. But
Right.
it's like you're never done with the playful practice of it.
Yeah, that's just life too. It's just balance.
True. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I will get better at like I'm definitely going to keep the 20-minute rule. Like I'm definitely going to try to keep the 20-minute rule. And when I get up,
I'll attempt it. Yeah, I'll do it with you. I'll attempt it because like
cool.
it'll help with my
I hope that by saying it, it
insomnia.
means that I don't like. I still, like I said I was gonna do it when I listened to it, and I have not yet done it because I haven't. Like, even if I do wake up, I like look around for 10 seconds and I fall back asleep. So maybe I'm tricking my brain to being like,
Right.
all right, 20 minutes, like
All
you're
right.
gonna go to sleep. But and it's
Yeah,
also
no,
like
it'll help
what I
though.
do with those 20 minutes, right? Like, or after
Mm.
those 20 minutes. On the days when I feel really tired and I do get up, I usually am like, all right, I guess I'll just go watch television because what else am
What
I
else are
gonna
you gonna
do?
exactly what else
And
are
then
you
I
gonna
tell
do?
myself too, right? Like you can't do anything productive. It's 3 in the morning. Like just lay and watch TV until you're tired again. So
It's a
there are
mental
so
battle.
many things. It's so funny. So many things that we learn that for our own well-being, we have to just consistently work to unlearn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it's the undoing.
The coming undone to
Yeah.
overcome. It's like and it's and like I said, like I am very lucky to have the life that I have where like I don't have a
Yeah.
lot of things overseeing my time, but like if I am gonna have children, like I need to figure this out now because then I don't get to choose anything going forward. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna be on their time schedule, and that's gonna be a lot.
Yeah. But I mean one step at a time
One step
here.
at a time. I'm gonna the 20 rule will help, and I definitely am more cognizant now of seeing what my days entail. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I really liked about what he did, Jim Collins like looked at with his data was that he said that one of his favorite things that he got from the experience of tracking back from his like +1 days to his minus days, he said that like when he first started looking at it, which is what I was saying, he didn't like when he saw -1 days. Like he didn't like seeing
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And after a couple of months, he would go back, and there were some days that like he would see a week's worth of -1 days.
Yeah, that happens. Yep.
But he said something that I think was so beautiful that he was like, it never mattered how many -1 days happened in a row. There was always a +1 day that like would come eventually after that. Like there was always one that came, it always came back. Like I always
Mm-hmm.
had like a good experience, a good day come back, no matter
Yeah.
how many negative days there were.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's that's the thing that like no matter how many nights of insomnia you have or how many like
There's gonna
days
be
that you're like
that one.
ah
There's gonna be that one, and then it'll
right,
be fine.
and you'll be able to come back to that.
Right, I agree, and I think that's just like with every sappy quote about positivity and optimism. It's just like
Totally.
it's literally just like that one instance that just makes up for the 10 plus negative days or whatever
Yep.
your streak is.
And it's just it's so frustrating because no matter how many times you never seem to see that clearly or understand it or appreciate it when you're in those negative fucking 1 days and they always keep showing up and you're like, this is it. Like, this is it.
But then if you do track it, dude, like I know you hated seeing it, but like if you do track it, you're like you'll appreciate the one,
you
the
can
plus
appreciate the fact that it
ones.
always comes back to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Which is I think it just like that was like a big sum that he said to, his whole process. And I was like, this is a good thing to remember that you do always
Yeah.
come back to those days.
And it's funny because like I used to do the same. Now I'm thinking about it. I used to do the same thing. It wasn't -1 plus 1. It was like a good or bad or what indifferent type of situation when I used to journal a lot. And there would be weeks, just weeks of like either indifference or like bad days, just weeks upon weeks. And then you get the one, and you're like, oh, okay, like this is great. Even if the next day was a negative, whatever, it's literally just that one.
That one saving grace
It's
moment.
literally just that one, and you're like, all right, I can keep going, and then that's it.
And it's literally you just have to hold out until,
Yeah, you really
and
just have
that's
to
why,
hold out.
right? Like everything else, I feel like we talk so much on this show about like our tips and the things that we find that work for us.
Yeah,
Because you just have to find what you can hold out for, like how you can hold on until you get to,
until you get to that one.
yeah, until you get to that one, which is
Literally.
so funny.
It's funny, but it's fulfilling nonetheless, if you will.
I mean, you gotta take what you can get when it comes to finding fulfilling things.
Yeah, exactly. In this day and age, 100%.
Speaking of fulfilling things, finally 2021 is over. Guys, it's so
The
funny.
fulfillment of 2021.
I cannot tell you the only thing, like Dan and I got married in a year that otherwise for myself and my family was one of the shittiest and hardest and most devastating between my dad and like my cat and like just like and things that Dan was experiencing with work, like one of the hardest years yet to date. And it's so funny because I'm so excited that 2021 is over, like like new chapter, let's go. And I'm like, oh wait, we also got married, so like yay, right? Like, this whole year is like -1, -1, -1, -1. Oh, +1, -1, -1.
Right.
So I got one.
You got one. You got one.
I got one.
It was a good one.
Like, I just feel like I'm allowed to. That's a caveat, right? When I say I'm so happy this year is over, know that the day of my wedding and what happened around my wedding is exclusive from this whole situation. It stands on
but those
its
are your
own.
+1s though.
Yeah, that is my single +1.
Yeah.
But I'm so excited that we are going into New Year. 22 is my favorite number, and 22 is an extremely lucky number.
Okay, good to know.
So crossing our fingers for us all.
Yeah, it'll be a good year for the pod.
It will be a good year for the pod. It will be.
Yeah.
And we are going to be extra, extra specially lucky if you guys come along for the ride. Maria and I have actually been paying attention to like stuff that's been going on, and like speaking of data, like our data on our show. So we
might be more organized next year.
Yes, we are going to be.
We might actually shift our gears and like do other things with this.
And we'll talk about New Year things
as they come.
Yeah, and into the once we get there. But yeah, we got a lot of really cool stuff coming from the podcast because we're still growing it and we're still doing this thing. And I think that, circa 2008, 2009 us would be so proud. But we are
circa 2008, 2009 us would be just amazed that we got this
far. Honestly, they'd be amazed that we were both still alive. That's honest. That's what I think me at that age would be like. Wow, you're still here. Okay, good for you.
Oh, cool. Good for you.
So again, thank you guys for joining us. We hope you had a really calm and just, I don't know, inviting and encouraging +1 of a holiday, I guess. Mm-hmm. And we're excited for you to join us on our journey as we keep moving into 22.
Yes. Also, we are taking off next week, I believe. So
yes,
We will see you in middle
Literally see
of
you in the new year.
yeah, see you in the middle of January, whenever that
Yes.
second Tuesday is.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right. So as we end out 2021 and we head into 2022, remember that you deserve to live your best life. You deserve all the plus ones in the world, as sporadic as they are. So don't be afraid to be more.
Okay, bye.